premises of Leadership newspaper. My name is Tion Joseph, and on the screen are 5 major Nigerian newspapers from which I'll be reading the major headlines. I'd like to begin the show this morning with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, which is the Leadership newspaper. On Leadership this morning, the news story says 2023 presidency, Atiku, Tinubu, Obi begin real battle for northern votes. Details of this story can be found on page 4. Heading down there, the first bullet says APC, LP, flag bearers lay agenda before Arewa committee. Second point says, I'll ensure indivisible Nigeria, says Tinubu. Next one says, Obi promises to unlock Nigeria's greatness, stem corruption. The next one says, Atiku pledges to reposition manufacturing sector, tackle terrorism. And the very last bullet on Leadership this morning says, NNPP intervenes in Southwest crisis. We have a lot of other stories to read, but I'll leave this to the panel discussion, which is coming up right after I finish reading the headlines. Moving on to the next, we have this day, and the lead story says, Tinubu in Kaduna vows to deal with elements threatening nation's security. And heading down there, the first bullet says every inch of Nigeria's territory will be secured. Next one says, hit at economic plan, says he will pay attention to modern fiscal drivers. And the very last bullet says, declares its payback time. Atiku should endorse him. That is all we have on this day. Let's head straight to the Punch. Lead story on the Punch says 2023 presidency, Tinubu, Obi unfold economic restructuring agenda to North. First, bullet says APC, LP candidates speak on restructuring, corruption, agriculture, power. Next one says, I supported Atiku. It's payback time now. Let him endorse me, says ex-Lagos governor. And the last bullet says, Atiku, Saraki, party members film as thugs attack PDP, Kaduna, Zamfara rallies. That is the lead stories we have on the Punch. We'll be moving straight to the next Nigerian daily, which is the Vanguard. On Vanguard, lead story says, floods, panic as corpses float in Bayelsa, Delta cemeteries. Bomadi, Burutu, Patani, LGS sacked. Victims sleep on Bomadi Bridge. As Khan, Ibori, indigents appeal to state government, political leaders for help. That is what we're taking on the Vanguard. And over to the last Nigerian daily before I hand over to the panel discussion, we have The Guardian. Lead story on The Guardian says, inflation speaks madly as flood sounds food crisis alarm bell. First bullet says, challenge threatens Nigerians' rise self-sufficiency. Next one says, farming communities completely cut off from urban areas. And the very last bullet says, expect worse food inflation next year. Experts warn. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for the first part of the show. The show is just getting started because right out of here, we'll be doing much more, reading more of the stories and give you more insights on the stories. My name is Tion Joseph. Please stay tuned for the next show.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Inside Nigeria, reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, and with me in the studio, as you can see, is a political economist and a public affairs analyst, Adefolari Olamileko. Welcome to today's Inside Nigeria.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being in our studio. We are flagging off. We are going to be discussing some major headline news stories today on some selected newspapers. And of course, we are starting off with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Let's see what Leadership is saying. 2023 presidency. Atiku Tinubu Obi begin re-battle for northern votes. 2023 presidency. Atiku Tinubu Obi begin re-battle for northern votes. APC Labour Party flag bearers lay agenda before Arewa Committee. How ensure indivisible Nigeria, says Tinubu. Obi promises to unlock Nigeria's greatness, stem corruption. Atiku pledges reposition manufacturing sector, tackle terrorism. NNPP intervenes in Southwest crisis. This is a leading story on Leadership newspaper today, Tuesday, 18th October 2022. As a political economist, what are you saying? They were campaigning, the political gladiators of the two major leading parties and an upcoming one, Labour Party, were marketing their words to Arewa Committee yesterday.
Exactly. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this particular issue. And I think this is one of the very aspect of the campaign for 2023 general election, especially with what they did yesterday was to speak to the intellectuals, to the stakeholders at that high level before they will move to the street, move to the campaign ground proper. And it's an opportunity for the stakeholders at that point in the Arewa Committee to listen to them and be able to look at what they are saying in terms of what they will do or offer when they enter government. But the truth is that it is still the same rhetoric we normally hear from politicians. I will do this, I will do that. But by the time they get to the power and say different ball game for them. But I need to give it to three of them for appearing, at least speaking on what they think they can do. But going forward will be when they eventually enter power, how are they going to implement or put to work what they have said. But one thing I also observe is that this kind of discussion yesterday will be far different from the campaign ground, because at the campaign ground they may not have that leisure or that pleasure to begin to itemize some of the things they will do. But what you'll be hearing are statements that will mix with emotion and reaction that will make the people to feel good and begin to say, okay, what will be hearing say this, say that, Tinubu has come, Obi has come, Atiku has come. These are the things we may hear at the campaign, but good enough. This can also be replicated across the other region, that they will meet with the stakeholders, they will meet with the intellectuals of those regions and be able to dissect what they think they will do when they enter power. And that's a good way.
Okay, thank you so much. We've seen situations like what you said, that these are mere rhetoric, that a situation whereby they get there and it's another thing they are doing entirely. So I want to find out, is what they propose to do or their campaign slogan, is it different from their party?
It's not
that
different.
They are represented, because what I am asking is that one would have expected that if by the time they get into power and they are derailing from what they set out to do, why is the party not holding them accountable, calling them to order that no, this is what we promised Nigerians and this is what we are supposed to do? Why are you derailing?
One thing we should understand is that right from 1999, the candidate and party manifesto are different. because
Why is this so?
why is this so? Because at the campaign ground, events will overtake and overshadow what the person wants to speak about. But yesterday, I think three of them spoke from their own particular specific things they want to do. Not necessarily what APC want to do, not necessarily what PDP want to do, not necessarily what Labour Party want to do, but at least specifically what they think they will do. And also another thing is that what they said yesterday was what majority of the people in that hall want to hear. If we take a very deep look at, critically look at what they said, it's what the people in the hall want to hear. They want to hear about restructure. They want to hear about insecurity. They want to hear about the economy. But specifically and particularly, they may not hit the ground running, or they may not speak specifically to the issue on ground, like the issue of inflation. Nobody will be able to ask them. Let's say there was no opportunity for people to ask them, okay, you are talking about the economy, you are talking about restructuring. How will you do it? But you're only telling us what you will do. But the how is not there. And this how is different from party manifesto. Political party manifesto, in the outline, it will tell what they want to do and how they want to do it. But the implementation proper is a different ball game by the time they come to power and want to implement it, because of the centrifugal and the centripetal forces that normally play out in the Nigerian system.
So why is this so? Because everybody says that nobody is bigger than the government. Why is it that they divorce, there's a divergent views when they get to power, and it's different from what Nigerians will see eventually, or see at the end of the day, will be different from what they propose to do? Why is the party, I repeat it again, faced to rein them in, to say, no, this is what we promise the masses, and this is what we are delivering?
One thing about policy is that it has to do with interest. By the time they get to power now, the interest will begin to play out in the forefront. Take, for instance, on the sister station, this one was discussing about the Oresonya panel report that's supposed to be implemented 10 years ago. Up to now, it is not being implemented. Yes. And the reason is not far from most of this, talk down, so this normally put out. It is the interest. By the time you want to implement a particular economic policy, now take, for instance, when the government came into power and they said they want to close border, it was not a welcome development for majority of Nigeria. It did it, but at the end of the day, it come back to the government like something that they didn't do properly, because it was not strategically thought out. And when they implement it, it became something that worked against them, even though initially it was working, but later on it did not work. Now, restructuring of the system, as most of them
heard that the present government did say they were all for restructuring.
Exactly. They even wrote a paper, developed so many.
The president told us that no, he never supported restructuring.
Definitely, because
remember, a committee was even set up towards the twilight of his first administration, headed by the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, to heading the committee for restructuring. At the end of the day, it all went down.
It went that way because there is interest. Yes. And the interest is that if we bring out this policy and make it work, certain people believe that certain people will not enjoy the goods of the nation again. So it will be like that. So they don't want it to happen. But the sacrifice needs to be paid. And that sacrifice to be paid is to make sure that policy of a particular political party is implemented to the fullness. But what the elite normally think in Nigeria, because of the elite bargain crisis they normally have. What I mean by elite bargain crisis is because if we allow this thing to work for us, the generality of Nigeria, we will lose out. That is where the crisis is.
Sorry, it's the same story we're having in most national dailies today, talking about THISDAY and even Punch newspapers. Let's see them. Let's see the story still on leadership. THISDAY and Punch, the Punch. 2023 presidency, Tinubu Obi unfold economic restructuring agenda to North. 2023 presidency, Tinubu Obi unfold economic restructuring agenda to North. APC LP candidates speak on restructuring, corruption, agriculture, power. I supported Atiku. It's payback time now. Let him endorse me, says Lagos Governor. Atiku Saraki party members fume as thoughts attack PDP Kaduna Zamfara rallies. Still on this day, is the same leading story. On this day, Tinubu in Kaduna vows to deal with elements threatening nation security. Tinubu in Kaduna vows to deal with elements threatening nation security. Says every inch of Nigeria's territory will be secured. Hints at economic plan. Says he pay attention to modern fiscal drivers. Declares his payback time. Atiku should endorse him. This is still the same story, from leadership to the Punch newspaper and this day. It's talking about the political candidates of APC, PDP marketing their campaign slogans to.
Exactly. I know if sorry for quickly because I was so eager to because I don't want the thought to quickly escape my mind.
Yes.
Now, the key thing about their campaign marketing strategy yesterday was economy and security.
Yes.
And that is what majority of people want to hear.
And the issue of security has become a front burner mantra or campaign slogan. Remember in 2015, that was what the present ruling party came to power with, the issue of insecurity and corruption.
Exactly.
Remember Boko Haram was gaining massive control over some northern states.
Exactly.
So at the same time, almost 8 years down the line, it's the same story for.
Although the dynamic of this security have changed, the terrorism aspect has a little bit been dealt with, but whether the internal one that are constituted according by kidnapping and banditry, and that's where the three major contenders are looking at insecurity from the angle of banditry, kidnapping, also ritual killing, especially in the southwest and other southeast of the part of the country. But the United States that issue of corruption have been brought to the back. Nobody is talking about much about corruption. We're looking at what the mood of the people, what they want to hear.
The corruption is there because people maybe obviously do not want to enlarge the scope of it. Because you see, like we had that actor who said that a situation whereby somebody that was supposed to be in charge of the nation's money, that is talking about the Accountant General, the Federation, was found with about more than 100 billion naira. So what more do you have to say about that?
The issue is this, when politicians on their part, the sincerity of tackling corruption will be very, very important. Because corruption is not just they are stealing money. It's an institutionalized, organized crime against the Nigerian people in a way that through procurement, corruption is carried out. Through employment, corruption is carried out. Through appointment, corruption is carried out. So for them to say, okay, I will come and tackle corruption boldly and say it, Nigerians will hold them accountable. And the current administration have learned something. When they put corruption as one of the front burner of what they are going to tackle, they discover that the corruption fight back against them through procurement, contract splitting, contract buying, and the rest of it. Through employment generation that end up through so many means, corruption came back and fought them. So for them to say, I'm going to fight corruption, Nigeria will be easily hold them on that, because to fight corruption in Nigeria is very, very deep. It's not just going to be something that will just wish away. And it's not something that somebody will say, I will do it now and get it done. Because within your cabinet, as a president, there are corrupt elements working with you. So how are you going to deal with that? And that's what really robbed the Buhari government so many things, where they say that, okay, we know there was corruption in PDP. The one that have been perpetrated in this current administration is higher and bigger than the PDP experience. So to fight corruption is not going to be small issue, but rather, I will encourage them that they should just try as much as possible to tackle areas they feel they can deal with. But if they say they want to tackle corruption, that means the party that brings them to power will be the first area they are going to fight corruption. Because in the party they come from, that nominated, that put them to position, they have to fight the corruption in that particular party first before they can talk of fighting corruption nationally. Because it is from the party. People who are members of that party want to enjoy whatever resources that the country has. That's why you see, I sponsor this, I put this down, I do that. And if they're not qualified to obtain or to get those contracts or to get those appointments, how do you deal with them? Because that is where the beginning of corruption will come from. Take a look at the APC list of campaign council. What happened? When the party discovered that the NWC members were not carried along, what did they do? They withdraw the list. And they went back and reshuffled it. The same thing happened up to now. Exactly. The same thing happened to PDP. Then LP also have his own. From less than 500 lists, it boggled up to 1,200. As a result of what, there was no disenfranchisement about people who constitute the list. And as I said, to tackle corruption, the leading candidate, whoever is going to be the president, will tackle the corruption coming from the political party. Because that is where it comes from. By the time you want to nominate somebody for position, it comes from there. You want to give contract, it comes from there. You want to appoint board of directors, it comes from there. And this is where these are the people that will be at the edge of affair of government agencies where corruption is said to be happening. So how do you tackle that without first tackling corruption from your political parties? So it's going to be a very difficult thing. But restructuring an economic program, we know they will have the policy in place, but how to implement it is a game that they have to work in partnership with the private sector. If you don't work with the private sector, there's no way your economic policy can work, because the private sector is also a sabotage in one way or the other. I know why I'm saying this. Majority of the government policy in terms of economy, when the private sector see that it doesn't favor them, they work against it. Just in the news over the weekend, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria was saying that they are almost closing shop, most of their members. But Manufacturing Association forget to tell us that they collected money from government in terms of intervention from CBN, from Bank of Industry and the rest. But they are not telling us that, but they are telling us they want to close down shop. Why? Because they are spending most of their 40% of their production costs on energy. But they forget to tell us that the government intervenes on their behalf by giving them money. You now see how it works. So if we don't partner with private sector in a way that can help the economy very well, they may sabotage the effort of the government. And that's my own thinking around this economic policy of any of the candidates. We must put the private sector in its own place.
And we are also overlooking the central force or sector, and that is energy.
Definitely.
They just mentioned the manufacturing sector. Having about 40% of it.
Of the operational cost, they spend it on energy.
So the candidates, they are not talking about energy.
Although the one of them mentioned about tackling electricity problem in Nigeria, but 42 years now, Mambila Plaza is still in construction site. It is still in construction. They have not yet finished it. Another grid, national grid, is collapsing. Although we
collapsed up to
72 times under this present administration. Yes. But people have been suggesting that we need to decentralize the transmission, the generation of electricity. That will help us a lot. Which the restructuring they are talking about, it is not just political restructure. Energy restructuring in terms of how to diversify our energy. Exactly, to diversify energy structure in the sense that states cannot generate electricity and supply to its indigenous and people residents in that state. That is the key issue. Even Tinubu said that he was the first person to prioritize energy development in Lagos State, but they never allow him to do because they asked him to put that energy on the national grid. And that is what is killing most of this initiative from state government. Why are we that they can allow state government to restructure the energy distribution and production in a way to satisfy the indigenous and residents of that state? With that, we can have adequate electricity in cities and towns across Nigeria. But if we continue deal with this way, that restructuring will not just work, but rather it will work for energy, work for economy.
Now let's look at the last rider on the Punch newspaper. It says Atiku Saraki party members fume as thugs attack PDP Kaduna Zamfara rallies. This is just the onset of the campaign, and we are having this thug attack. What do you have to say about that?
It's sad that we have to witness something like this. No, the biggest thug.
And same in Zamfara. While you're at it too, we heard that there was a report that the Zamfara state governor shut down some media houses because they covered reports of PDP.
You know, the thing is that, the last time we had some kind of funny activities like this was in 2007 election, build up to it, during that election and after that election. And the other bigger one was in 2011. We don't hope to have such experience in 2023. 2019 was a little bit fair, and 2015 was even fairer in terms of activities or thuggery. It was very minus zero activity of thuggery. But in this kind of scenario now, we don't pray that it continue like this. People should be allowed to campaign. Although I was in Nasarawa State, the police commissioner was talking about that. If a political party wants to conduct campaign, it should just be one at a time in a particular area, not two. In a sense that if two political parties are conducting their campaign in their particular vicinity, very close by, it may cause one after the other. We just hope that will be followed because it's a good wisdom in that. But this one that happened in Kaduna, we just hope to stop. It will not happen again, and it's not.
Perhaps the leaders, the governors, should call the people to order.
The thing is, even if they call the people to order, the machinery of this kind of thuggery happen at local level. You understand? It happen at local level. It could just be within 2-3 people that are arguing and talking before it's snowball into what we don't expect. So we just hope that they continue to inform the people, continue to educate people, continue to enlighten people about tolerance among themselves. Because the key thing in campaign is tolerance. No matter how boiling the discussion will be, just tolerate your other people. But intolerance also, we should also be conscious in what we are talking about. Because what could have led to something like that could have been maybe a hate speech among the both camp, and that was going to the fight and the violence that we experienced.
Okay, with this fight and violence, are they aware that with this electoral act is quite different from what was obtainable in the past previously, and that any issue of violence. It's not to be reckoned with.
At all. And again, the law is that whoever does that, whoever is being caught in the web will be arrested. If at the least year jail time is about 5 years, and the money you pay is enter about 500,000 and thereabout. And in this case also, the political parties will be held accountable. So how did this happen? Is it that the PDP didn't provide security for people that came for the campaign rally? We need to ask them. Or is it that the talk overwhelmed the security architecture in that campaign rally? We need to also ask them, because it is important that they must provide security for every rally, for every campaign they are going into.
Okay. So what do you have to say about this Zamfara state government that shut down some media houses? And we also are getting reports too that some state governments will actually ban use of venue for the opposition's
photo campaign.
News.
I think INEC react to this particular news of banning campaign rallies, venue, and the rest of them. And INEC said that all political parties have the opportunity to campaign anywhere they want to campaign. Although I can understand where the River State government was coming from, that primary school, secondary school should not be used. They should go and hire stadium or town hall or whatever. Oh no, we understand that regarding the sense that if primary school buildings are used because of this kind of third-degree attack, what will lead to maybe burning the properties of those schools and the rest of them. So that's what the governor is trying to avoid. Then to the state governor, caution have to be told to him in the sense that we are in a democratic setting.
Yes.
He doesn't have such power to close down TV station and radio station, beaming satellite on the campaign program or other rallies or the opposition parties. He should understand that this is he has limit. Although maybe he is misinformed by his aides, or that kind of activity was carried out without his own knowledge.
The Nigerian Guild of Editors, who are also meeting, has also condemned it in the entirety that it's actually the work, if they breach the code of conduct,
Exactly.
the work of the NBC to call the media houses to order, not the actual grant by the state government.
I mean, I want to believe that maybe it was an ill advice from his aides, people working with the governor, maybe the Commissioner of Information or his SC of Media, or someone around his government who just advise him to do this kind of thing. And ordinarily, we don't expect such to happen. But if it has been done, they can retrieve their step and correct what they have done, and maybe put an apology to leading 5 national daily newspapers and apologize to Nigerians and apologize to the radio station that was closed or TV station that was closed. And that will be able to bring peace between them, Nigerian journalists and other groups that are fuming right now on that particular issue.
Thank you so much. Well, viewers, we are going on a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at another paper for discussion this morning, and that is Vanguard newspaper. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. This is Inside Nigeria, reaching you on Leadership Television. With me in the studio is Adefolari Olamilekan. He's a political economist and a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much once again.
Thanks for having
My
me.
name is Winfred. Welcome back to the continuation of our breakfast show. We are looking at Vanguard newspaper. It's a newspaper on our menu, and incidentally, Vanguard and Guardian has the same headline. Let's start with Vanguard newspaper first. Vanguard floods panic as corpses float in Bayelsa Delta cemeteries. Floods panic as corpses float in Bayelsa Delta cemeteries. Bomadi, Borutu, Patani local government areas sacked. Victims sleep on Bomadi Bridge as Khan Ibori. Indigenes appeal to state government, political leaders for help. Floods. Panic as corpses float in Bayelsa Delta cemeteries. Bomadi, Burutu, Patani local government area sacked. Victims sleep on Bomadi Bridge as Khan Ibori indigenes appeal to state government, political leaders for help. That's the leading story on Vanguard, and it's the same story making the cover on The Guardian. Let's see Guardian. So what do you have to say? Okay, The Guardian newspaper says inflation peaks mildly as flood sounds food crisis alarm bell. Inflation peaks mildly as flood sounds food crisis alarm bell. As the leading story on The Guardian newspaper, and it has so many riders underneath it. Challenges threaten Nigeria's rice self-sufficiency. There is challenges threatening Nigeria's rice self-sufficiency. Family farming communities completely cut off from urban areas.
It is quite pathetic that
Very pathetic.
we have found ourselves in this scenario of flooding, and this flooding reminded us of the 2012 and 2013 flooding, although this one is becoming so devastating because those were cut off, especially those coming in from Abuja, from Lokoja, were really cut off. We have to suffer for fuel scarcity in
We
the
still
city.
are.
Up to now, although Nasarawa have been picking people going from Abuja to buy fuel in Nasarawa, and the tankers are even coming through Nasarawa to come to Abuja, another vehicle coming to Abuja and going out of Abuja. The case is quite pathetic and sad, although government in the past and presently have said, okay, they have done a lot in that aspect. But we also need to talk to our people, especially those that live close to river bank. The picture I was seeing this morning, if you check the rate of the flooding, is quite alarming. It's quite alarming to the point that you feel for the people and people who farm very close to river bank, especially rice and other commodity that consume a lot of water to germinate and to be planted. They have been washed away. But the thing has been said according to people that people need help. Nigerians at that particular point in Bayelsa, in Kogi, in Anambra, Imo, down to River State, they all need help at this point in time. So the only thing that government can do is, although I've read in the news that government has formed a committee, a relief committee with NEMA to look at some of the predicaments that followed up this flooding intervention. But we know that at the end of the day, the intervention must go to the people, not to politicians.
However, Adebolari, how come we know that flooding has become kind of a part of our course, and there are issues. It's preventable. How come federal government is not doing the preventive?
The thing is that it's not just federal government work. It has to do with at the state level.
Because we were told that Cameroon has a dam that normally opens and it informs the federal government. Federal government on its own part was supposed to have also completed this dam in Adamawa.
Now Niger State and Adamawa, they refurbished the two in Niger State and refurbished another smaller one in state. Exactly.
And federal government has not over the years, and about 40 years.
And that is the ecological fund that have been stolen one time. Those money were meant to build exactly those to build those dam, and those dams are very close to riverine area. But what has happened is that state government have looked the other way, local government looked the other way, and are selling lands to people. If you check most areas that this flooding have taken over, it is areas that are close to river bank or areas that are water channel. The Bayelsa, we understand that because of Bayelsa is very close to the sea, and the state governments of have taken proactive, because in 2012 and 2010, I remember that there was a committee formed by Bayelsa state government to look at land allocation within the riverine area to stop people from building houses within that area so that the water channel can go, because all the water that is coming from up north to River Niger, to the bank of River Niger, to the confluence River in Kogi State is going down to Anambra. From the Anambra, it poured to the open space in River State and Bayelsa State, and it moved to the ocean. But now all those areas have been blocked. And you can't blame the people too, because the government is supposed to take responsibility at the state level and the federal government level are sleeping.
So how come, Vanguard reported that corpses are flowing on top of water?
because most of those areas also have burial ground in communities. So the water will have, and water is very delicate. It look for pathway, and if an open space is burial ground, it go through there. If it's your parlor is the open space, it go through it, because water must surely find its course. And the course is that, especially in Bayelsa State, is moving to the ocean. So it must find its course back to the ocean. And that course has been blocked. And it must find a way. And that's why you see that it's overflowing houses and the rest. The one in Kogi State, if you go to Kutunkarifi and part of Kogi State in Basa local government as well as local government, people build houses close to that river. How come? They are not being monitored, they are not being for one. Even if they are for one, people will tell you that these are their ancestral homes. They cannot leave that place. But the key thing is that we need to build our own sub dams to absorb this water. And sub dams will definitely, look at the picture we are looking at. If sub dam will be built, it will be built in this particular area, because after this place you are seeing, it is river, so that it will absorb it and keep it. If you have seen a dam before, like the sub dam we have in Osun State, it's not too big, but it absorbs water coming all the way from inside, from Ondo, from Ekiti, from Akure, down to that place before you get to the river, then flow to Lagos, from Lagos, then flow into the ocean. You can see that Lagos now, there are nobody complaining about flood, because the government there have been able to take care of the Ogun River and Ogun Dam that is there.
Okay. Now with the flood, we're having this inflation rising from food prices. As Guardian puts it, that it has sounded alarm bell in our food prices. So can Nigeria cope, given the prevailing situation we have on our hands?
It's going to be very difficult for us to cope, in the sense that now what will happen is that the food may not be that scarce, but what will happen is that the transportation cost of bringing those food from those rural areas will be the challenge. And NBS released our inflation estimate is 20.77% from 20.55 that we had. I mean 20.25 we had earlier, or 50 we had earlier. Now what this is translating into is that farmers who supposed to harvest crops like rice, like cocoyam, like water yam, or other vegetable crops that are supposed to have a true water source plantation, what they call fadama, I mean farming through water area, we won't be able to get that now. And if you are going to get that, it's going to be very expensive, very costly for us to get, and that's what will result in expensive of food in the market.
And Nigeria says sufficiency, rice sufficiency too.
It has also bring a big blow to that, in the sense that the rice formation from Yobe State to Gombe State, that have been KB and the rest of it has already been affected, because even KB State also have issue of flooding. And with all this put together, 32 states altogether, and with other more than 1,000 communities, what is going to happen is that the rice formation, rice plantation has been washed away in billions of naira put invested in those kind of projects. As washed away, we can only hope that we can recover quickly from dry period farming.
So what should now, as a short-term measure, what should the federal government do?
I think they have done the first thing. Exactly, they have done the first thing by releasing about 12,000 tons of food have been said to be released to the public, although for people affected by flooding. The next thing for the government to do is to look at how they can cushion the effect. Number one, especially for civil servants, pay them promptly. Pay civil servants promptly, because that's where the noise will start from. They are not paid promptly. Then for ordinary people who are not working for the government, the transportation is what normally brings cost of food. How can we make sure that we patch all the loopholes, all the gallops in our road? Because the more gallops that vehicle encounter, the more damage does to their vehicle. Then again, let there be no fuel scarcity. If these three can be tackled, I know Nigerians will have a good ride and believe more in the government.
Now, with the costs that Vanguard reported that they are floating in Bayelsa, what is going to be done about it, or what should be done about it?
I think the health authority in Bayelsa still need to move into action, because before epidemic comes out in terms of cholera and the rest. And you also know that there have been a report of reptiles swimming through the water, crocodile, snake, and the rest of it. Health officers are supposed to move in and be able to stop some of these things. But majorly is the health implication that this will bring about, which is cholera, water poisoning, and the rest of it. Outbreak of disease. We just hope that the government can take action and not just wait for the federal government, because everybody is looking at federal government alone. But rather, they should take action in their own state domain, especially in Bayelsa State, and Delta State.
Meanwhile, many Nigerians are of the opinion that why is the federal government always takes a fire brigade approach to situations, to things, because considering the huge intervention fund that the federal government is going to spend at the end of the day to mitigate the crisis arising from this flood, wouldn't it have been better if you were able to complete the dam and be able to absorb most of these flood during rainy season?
I think we cannot absorb the state government from this particular project. Ecological fund was not just federal government. That money was given to some states to do certain projects. We should begin to ask questions. The money that was given to
some state governments are trying to
exactly. If Lagos State collected the same funding in 2012, 2013 when the flooding came, but now nobody talking about flood in Lagos, as we are talking about in Delta State, as we are talking about in Bayelsa State, as we are talking about in Kogi State, even in KB and the rest of them. How come Lagos judicially use its own fund? The other states, what do they do with their own funding? Because ecological fund is distributed to them equally. Now, what we need to call out is that let the state government work in partnership with the federal government, not just collecting the money, because I've understood as a policy analyst is that when money comes, when they say we are giving money for so, the state government are more interested in the money than the policy they're supposed to embark on. They will just leave it. And that's the end of it. And when those policies are supposed to even go to local government, they stop it and hijack it and take it over. So we should stop all those kind of grandstanding of state government that money is given to them for a particular project and they abandon those projects and don't get it. Now we are talking about 2022 now flooding. I can bet you once those monies are released for the project, either to complete those dams or to build new ones, the state governors, whether the ones that are coming or the ones that are going, they will sit on it. And nobody will ask them questions. And when you want to ask them questions, another flood has come. Then they will say, federal government, come and help us. Federal government. But the money has been given. Although we also understand the politics that play within civil service and the rest of them.
The state governments that were also undergoing EFCC were told that they took or stole or misappropriated this ecological fund.
Exactly. Some of them are in power, some of them are already out of power. So the key thing is that we know that the misdeed has been done. How can we correct this impasse in our system? Is to hold them accountable. Just that the fear is that our focus is on federal government.
Yes.
And federal government is easy to criticize because they hardly come against you. We can talk and criticize the government, we can write anything about the government, like a budget IT, one of the leading CSO about a report about some state government now, criticizing some of them about what they did with their money. Now, the state government now, they know how to chase people. But the federal government will give you time, even though they see it as constructive criticism. But the state government have one responsibility to do to the people. Now, even at the federal government level, but we focus so much on the federal government and we abandon the state. Because the state government, they know how to chase someone if you criticize them. Some of us will even stay in the state. And that's why I see that criticism is coming to the federal government all at the same time.
And most state governments will even sponsor security agents,
exactly.
Journalists
exactly.
that criticize them. We've seen many cases of that happening. Well, yes, this is what we call it a day on today's program. It's been a pleasure hosting you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
To see more of you on the program.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
you
the
are
opportunity.
same time, same station tomorrow. Is another day. I mean, Winifred Bobo. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.